Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone in between and adjacent, welcome to the Rush Rundown, what I believe is the first and only 10-minute testing ripoff for Rush Duels. Today in the Rush Rundown, we're taking a look at the other half of the brand new deck build box with a new take on an old favorite deck. This deck even takes a previously unplayable monster and turns it into a powerhouse. So, please allow me to introduce to you Dragiastar. This is the part of the video where I tell you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. That's right, today we're taking a look at the Dragiastar deck. Now, this deck's a little interesting, where this deck only really got one new card from the most recent set. However, that one card changed everything. Most of the cards included here are pretty much cards that have been in the game for months at this point, so I'm not going to go too deep and going over each and every one, but still, we have to start at our skill. Now, this skill's also already been in the game for a long while. This was released along with the Dragiastar F Fusion, and it was the new fusion kind of boss for Luke. Dragiastar Nova reads, can be activated. All monsters in your constructed deck are dragon-type monsters, and all monsters in your constructed extra deck are high dragon-type monsters. Multi-choice effect. Make the attack of one face of level 7 light attribute monster in your field with 2600 or less attack become 2700. The total attack of all face of level 5 or higher monsters in your opponent's field is 1400, 2800, or 4200 or more. Add 1, 2, or 3 the dragon and or fusion your deck or graveyard to your hand. So that skill might be a little hard to parse if you're not really familiar with the Dragiastar F deck before these new additions. The idea behind that skill is it would either take the Star Dragon or Dragias and pump their attacks. It had a little more synergy with the Star Dragon that I'm not really going to go over since we don't include him in this version of the deck. But basically the idea is you want your opponent to have a big field of monsters in attack position, and then you can turbo out both the Dragon and Fusion to just drop a Hyper Strike Dragon Dragiastar F to then make this guy just huge and he just swings over the opponent's entire board. But that was the old version of the deck. Now, this is specifically the Dragiastar version, which you might be familiar if you're in higher ranks of seeing this deck a whole lot. I know I certainly saw a whole bunch of this deck on my King of Games kind of like grinding for other Rush Rundown videos. Let's actually read off Dragiastar, and then I want to go over what this deck kind of does before we go over each other individual card. So, if you're not familiar with Dragiastar, he's a 2500 level 7 dragon, just like Dragiastar, has the effect of sending one level 7 or higher dragon-type monster from your hand to the graveyard. Up to 2 face-up level 7 or lower monsters in your opponent's field lose 1500 attack until the end of this turn. This turn, if this card destroys a monster in battle, it can make a second attack on a monster during the battle phase. So, this guy was just regarded for a while as just being worse Dragiastar, whereas Dragiastar gets 2 attacks on anything. If it destroyed a monster with the first attack, this guy can only attack monsters. Yes, he lowers the attack stat, which is pretty good, but it wasn't really that great beforehand. However, he got his new fusion form. Hazy Strike Dragon Dragiastar F. Send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. Make it up to 3 face-up monsters in your opponent's field lose 1500 attack until the end of this turn. This turn, this card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters. Or, this turn, this card can attack directly. And this is a level 9 3k attack monster. So the goal of this deck, right, is to basically control the board through high pressure, high attack monsters. It's a similar way that Dragiastar Turbo, or just in general Dragon / Dragiastar decks played before, where you want to put a big guy on field that's hard for the opponent to out, and then you get to just pick them apart each and every subsequent turn after you drop the big guy. Now, where this deck plays in a slightly different axis to Dragiastar is that Dragiastar and the Dragiastar Fusion Hazy Strike, they're able to play in a certain way where you almost want the opponent to commit a big board of attack position monsters, because Hazy Strike can basically just OTK the opponent out of nowhere, similar to the way Psychics would play with the Candy Live, lowering all the opponent's monsters by 3k. we essentially do the same thing here if we're able to resolve both Miragias and Hazy Strike's effects. So for our main deck, we are just playing a whole bunch of things to kind of facilitate this more attack modulation and battle pressure kind of style of gameplay. But first off, we're playing 2 Illusion Strike Dragon Miragias. I did test with 3, it just ended up being a little bit too bricky, so I switched one of the Miragias out for more back row. You could obviously play 3 and then just 2 Dragias instead. I just don't like playing 6 of the level 7 tributes. And with that said, we're on 3 Dragias, 1 Phoenix Dragon, it is at 1, 3 Fortitude Dragon, we're on 3 Triad Drago. Like I said, we want the opponent to actually have dudes in attack position, so we are playing the Triad Drago at 3 to hopefully be able to take advantage of the opponent committing a big play to their board, so we can hopefully draw a card. He's also the only level 3 in this version of the deck, so we don't really have to worry about being too bricked up by not being able to draw. We're on 3 Star Replacer. I really like Star Replacer. This is a card I always say every time it comes up. I was so wrong about this card. He's really good. Just represents 2 tribute material as long as it's not like turn 1. We're on 3 Sylphidra. This doesn't need to be Sylphidra. This slot can be any 1500 dragon. Like any normal summon 1500 dragon, you can just throw it in the slot. And then we are on 3 The Dragon to round out our monsters. This is really important. The Dragon is the fusion material on both Dragiastar and Dragiastar, so we definitely need to max out on him just to make sure that we can consistently get to our fusion. Now for our spell traps, we're playing Pot of Greed. We want to see our pieces as soon as possible, and we want to keep some guys in grave to resolve things like Star Replacer, to resolve things like Dragonic Pressure, to resolve things like Dragon's Fortitude. That's why we're playing Pot of Greed instead of playing anything like Pot of Avarice or Talisman Accelerate. We're on 3 Dragon's Inferno, it's just MST. We are on 1 Dragonic Pressure. Now, I like playing Dragonic Pressure at 1 in these decks just because it's another card that I consider as an extra access to the dragon without having to spend a slot on something like Star Restart. We are on 1 Fusion, so the dragon is a once per duel add, but Fusion can be added as many times as possible from deck or grave, so we don't really need to worry about playing more than 1. We have no limit 2, so we are on Negate Attack, we have our Buffered Slime, and we are on 1 Dragon's Fortitude. Anyway, so I tried to keep this card by card a little more briefer than usual, so let's hop right into our games and check this out. Alright, here we are, game number 1, and our opponent is on Blue Eyes Monarch. Now, I gotta just say right off the bat, part of the reason why I'm featuring this duel specifically is also to kind of feature this player. So during testing, I actually ran into this guy a couple times and I got cleaned out a whole bunch. You'll see they're going first and they just open Pot of Greed. You'll notice opening Pot of Greed is a bit of a theme here. This is like my 3rd time fighting against them this time, so I was already well aware of what they were up to even after seeing the soldier. So you see we also just drew Pot of Greed for turns. So here's going Pot of Greed, and we're going to put out any kind of like big play we can. We go ahead and we Dragons in front of the middle card, which was just a particle acceleration, but whatever. Let's go Dragias and let's get a little aggressive. We're pretty much just setting everything, just emptying out our hand, just hoping we can just wipe their board so they don't have any tribute materials, so they can't drop any more of these monarchs on the board. They draw, they have Kaibaman. Kaibaman, of course, they also drew the Bright Eyes. Here comes Bright Eyes. Bright Eyes effect goes to 3k, and they're just going to also set their monsters. So thankfully, they can't really do a lot of huge pushes with this deck, or at least it's very inconsistent when they can do a bigger push. So we can basically survive out for a while here. We're going to go ahead and draw. We got the Dragon, we got Fortitude, we got Sylphidra. This is a really decent hand, Triad. We're just going to go ahead and reset our Dragon's Fortitude, hopefully get that back online, make sure that they can't really play around it. Add Fusion off our skills, flip the Triad effect, draw a card, because that Blue Eyes is in fact level 8 with over 2000 attack. Go ahead and tribute summon Dragas once again. So we're going to drop the Fusion, going for the Dragiastar F. Yes, I understand this is a Miragias deck, but listen. The deck plays Dragiastar. It's the dragons, you know, the deck's the dragons. So now we're going to bring out the Sylphidra. We're just going really aggressive. For some reason, I thought this guy was a dragon fusion. I completely forgot that high dragon even exists. So this triad's just out here chilling for no reason. At least we can do 300 attack to the opponent. But we are in a rough position here now. They revealed that Ghost Cyclone wasn't one of those sets, so they just got out the Dragon's Fortitude for free. They go ahead and tribute Siesta Torero, and they go for the Talismanic Seal Array, realize that this is not enough, and they scoop it up. So I got the vibe from their kind of like hand and what they had already gone through that they probably whiffed the draw on any of the bigger guys like Blue Eyes, Bright Dragon, or the bigger Wilhel. They are on a lower amount of the big Wilhel in these Blue Eyes Monarch decks, so they probably whiffed that, realized that if they can't kill me, or if they can't even out the Hyper Strike Dragon Dragiastar F, that I was probably just going to win the next turn. So before even finishing resolving the Talismanic Seal Array, they just scooped it right up. So like I said at the top, I just wanted to feature this player who I encountered a whole bunch of times during testing. But let's go ahead and go into game 2, which is a little bit more of a back and forth. Alright, here we are, game number 2, and this is actually the mirror. So the opponent's actually playing a different version of the Dragiastar deck. You can see, actually, by the way, we opened with Pot of Greed again, just gotta want it. Anyway, so like I was like, you'll notice very quickly they are on a different version of the deck. We only have monsters here, so we did set 3. That is the Pot of Greed problem of just drawing too many cards and picking up. They, however, are able to set most of their hand, leaving them with just 1 card in. Although we do have Miragias and then drawing Dragas for turn, so it's like, okay, it doesn't even matter that we were kind of bricked up because we can still just be super aggressive. So we're going to use Dragiastar Nova just to pump our Dragas up, kind of feeling that maybe we can go face for 2700. We go ahead and swing over, Star Replacement Fortitude, go direct for 27. No responses out of the opponent, so we're feeling pretty good. The back rows are just blanks. So go ahead and draw for turn. Dragiastar Nova, theirs is online because, in fact, we do have the 2500 Dragias, and this is what I'm talking about. So they are on the 7-shift version of this deck. This version maxes out on Miragias and Dragias to then just special one of them out with the 7th shift and not have to worry about tributing a whole bunch. Now you can see they are just going to drop the Hyper Strike Dragon Dragiastar F, which is a problem for us. Go and pump themselves 3900. We're going to take a whole lot of damage. Oh my god. Take 14 there, take 24 there, and then we lose our last dragon there. Now, we are actually in a pretty decent position here. So we do in fact have the Miragias in hand, so we can take them out. Let's go ahead and add 2, and then I make a horrible misplay and forget to activate the Star Replacer effect. So we miss out on a whole tribute material, which I was planning on going for both Dragias and Miragias, but my misplay kind of screwed that up. So we're just going to go for the fusion play with the Illusion Strike Dragon Miragias, putting down the Winged Dragon Guardian Fortress number 1, using for the Dragiastar F, the Dragiastar F effect, lowering them down even further, swinging in and realizing that the reason that we didn't get response for because they had no dragons in grave. So they revealed that they had Dragon's Fortitude face down, lowering us down to 2300, so we're only able to do 800 over there, and then 2300 here, leaving the opponent on 200 life points and us with just the Dragiastar F. They're going to go ahead and Dragiastar Nova, because we do in fact have a guy with 3k attack. They're able to add both the Dragon and Fusion. I just assume we're dead here, but I decided to stick it out, let the guy go for the win. They pump us down, 26. They set their Dragon's Fortitude. That's really bad for us. But hey, if we can live this turn, this guy can just go face for 3k. Here comes their own Miragias, the Dragon. Fusion, we're pretty much done for here. They just have to use the effect to attack directly, and we are just done. They activate the effect to go attack directly, and they misclicked. They misclicked and attacked our Miragias. They pass turn and surrender. Now, you might be wondering why did I show this game now too, where the opponent misclicked and then surrendered out of shame? Well, that's because this is a warning. That happened to me a whole bunch during testing. I completely ruined multiple games where I just didn't click either I didn't click the attack directly effect and accidentally hit the other one, or I hit the attack directly effect and then didn't attack directly. So this one serves as a warning for anyone else playing this deck. Make sure you're doing your inputs correctly, please. Alright, here we are, game number 3, and you know what that means, a 1v1 versus Cyber Dragon. We're going first, and hey, we opened Pot of Greed once again. This, I'm not picking these replays just because I keep opening Pot of Greed. I just keep opening Pot of Greed. So we were kind of reading that the opponent might have been on Dark Galaxy with a fake extra deck. So I just went ahead and didn't tribute set this Dragiastar, fearing that he was going to be like run over. But now that I see that the opponent was in fact on Cyber Dragon, I was kind of feeling, maybe it's good, maybe it wasn't good that I didn't in fact set this Dragiastar. So they're going to swing in. We do lose Replacer and Triad, which is fine. I'm glad Fortitude stayed, but I would have preferred if he actually, you know, made an aggressive play. We're just going to summon our guys here, just to tribute over them with Dragiastar. Again, a hand of like only monsters. We're going to ahead pop a back row Dragon's Inferno. We end up hitting Slime, which is pretty nice. Then we're just going to go face with Dragiastar. Hit him for 13, hit him for 12, and then right directly for 1500. Again, this isn't really playing to our deck strength, but at least we can kind of fall back on the Dragiastar. But we're probably just going to end up seeing the opponent go special summon Cyber Dragon. Of course, I mean, I already played this duel out, so I know. So they special summon the Cyber Dragon, they activate Barrage of Steel, popping a back row. They hit our Dragonic Pressure. I was really worried, actually. I was, in fact, trying to get us into a line as they activate their skill and add fusion. I was trying to get us into a line where we would resolve this Dragonic Pressure, wiping out whatever they set up on board, and then summoning back the dragon, and then using our Dragiastar in hand for a fusion play. The idea was basically that we just wipe them out that way, because I didn't really see any responses coming from their back row. As well, we did have the Dragon's Inferno to contest at least one of them. Anyway, back to the live duel. They're going to go ahead and use Fusion, as of course they also saw the Proto Cyber Dragon, to make the Cyber Twin Dragon. Then they're going to use Cyber Entry, revealing one of the back row, revealing the other back row to be a second Cyber Entry, and I was freaking out. I'm bad at math. I had no idea what the math on this was. So they swing with Cyber Twin over both our monsters, swing directly with Cyber Dragon, directly with the other Cyber Dragon, and we live, just like that last game, with 200 life points. We're going to go ahead and draw. There's very little hands that don't do it. Now we draw double Fortitude, the Dragon, and another Dragiastar. We're going to go Fortitude, Fortitude, lower down the Cyber Twin. Second Fortitude, Fortitude, lower down the Cyber Twin. We pretty much have lethal immediately, but I want to do lethal over the Cyber Twin Dragon. So we're going to summon up the dragon, go ahead and go fusion. We did really mess up a little bit where we can't get this second Dragiastar on the field, but, you know, whatever. So here he is, Hyper Strike Dragon, Dragiastar F. We're simply just going to boost our attack up. We're 3900. Swing over Cyber Twin for 19, and with them with 100 life points left, we swing over a second Cyber Dragon for game. Again, yeah, we didn't really show off Dragiastar here, but this is pretty much, you know, a rundown for the Fusion Dragons deck. The idea is just we're calling it Dragiastar because Dragiastar is the new card, right? So we're back with the deck. And I think we can pretty much understand why this deck has been taking over the competitive tournaments and the rank ladder overall. It is a powerhouse. So let's go over the pros and cons. First, the pros. We have so many different kind of axes we can play this deck on at this point. We can be attacking directly with Dragiastar, just playing completely ignorant of the opponent's board, or we can just keep wiping all their big monsters with Dragiastar and Dragiastar. As well, we always have the backup aggro, so we're really strong in that way. All this kind of battle control with lowering the opponent's stats through Fortitude and Dragon's Fortitude, and like I said, the Dragiastar skill. This deck is also consistent. I would say you could cut out a bunch of these cards and just like swap this into a Tribute Dragon Turbo deck and it would still probably be really strong. The tribute engine star replacer being able to get you most likely both Dragias and Miragias out in the same turn is really strong. Being able to drop both these guys pretty consistently is really good for the deck. Having the extra draw Triad online most of the time, as long as the opponent's playing, is really cool. And we have some cool tech cards like Dragonic Pressure that gives us just all these different angles we can kind of work with. Now, the cons. Sometimes you do just draw the level 7 guys with no really way to do anything. Like, you could end up with a hand where you just go, oh cool, Miragias, and Dragias, and Dragon's Inferno, and Pressure, and you're just like, well, what do I do now? This version of the deck is also not playing anything to really shuffle guys back besides the one Dragon's Fortitude, so we can eventually run out of gas if we come up against an opponent that is playing just a grindy deck. Something like Cybers might actually be a little bit troubling for this deck, just because of how often they can get their 2-drop monsters out. We're also pretty weak to the staple back rows. Like, we can make a big push with the Dragiastar F, but then we can also just get completely blown out by a negate attack. As well, we also have pretty much no insurance against getting widespread ruined, which is really rough. And it is unfortunate for me to announce that people are teching in Forever Freeze to counter this deck specifically. I never thought we would see the day where Forever Freeze gets played, but if you look at tournament results on Duel Links meta, the winning decks are playing Forever Freeze, and the losing decks are these Miragias decks, these Dragias decks. You know, it's similar to when everyone was playing the Rice Terrace Crisis back when this first came out a month or so ago, because it just hard countered Psychics and decks like Light Galaxy. But with all that said, I had a lot of fun playing this deck. I was actually working on a rush rundown just for the Dragiastar deck originally, but then when the Miragias support was announced, I decided to put this off until now so I can just include it with this. But yeah, I'm feeling really positive about this deck. I would say if you're looking for a bit of a cheaper deck to play, you can actually build this for pretty cheap. There are some key cards you would have to cut out from this specific version, but the deck build box does just have the Miragias, the Dragias, and a bunch of our other smaller dragons. Anyway, with that said, if there is a deck you would like to see me feature on this series, go ahead and leave that in the comments below. And while you're down there below the video, why don't you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to make a deck recommendation, you can just comment on how great this video was, right? Thank you again for watching. Goodbye.